Hey everyone, welcome to Tim's Vinyl Confessions. I'm Tim Derling and I want to thank you for watching. On this episode, I'm going to do a reboot of my Queen 8-track collection because I've got something very important that has been added to it. And so I'm going to go through it. And as far as I know, as far as the band Queen themselves, this is all of their albums that were released on 8-track. So we'll get started. 1973, the first Queen album. Now, the version I have is rather weathered. Probably been out in the sun. Debut album, 1973, self-titled. It does say Queen there, as you can see. Now, if you're wondering why it's black and white, it's because this is a UK edition on EMI. And it would have come with a slipcase originally. The slipcase would have the cover in color. But, of course, my version that I found online does not have... doesn't have the color cover. And if I ever find a Canadian or a US version on Elektra, then, I might bequeath this to one of my buddies that also collects. Who knows? Or I might keep it too. I don't know. One of the first Queen tracks the very first Queen 8-track I ever found, and I found it early on. Like, I found this way back in 92, which is rare, because this is not an obvious album to find on 8-track. Queen 2, and the cover is in really good shape. This is a Canadian Elektra version. Not a lot of bubbling in it at all. And cautionary tale, you may see this distinct line here. Well, that's because I used to have an 8-track player. People ask me why I collect them and don't play them. I put this one in, started to play, and then tape spaghetti. So then I decided to just collect them. That was painful. Next up, 1974, Sheer Heart Attack. And... did an episode with Sarah once. I think we did our top 10 Queen episodes. I had picked something from this. She noted what a strange color this is. I don't know if you'd call this olive. I don't know what this is. But anyway, it's a US Elektra 8-track. So not only did they use the Elektra logo at the time, they made one just for their 8-tracks, which is kind of neat. You can see it again on the back here. 1975, one of the classics of all time. Night at the Opera. This is a dirty copy. This could stand to be replaced, and this, too, is a U.S. copy on Elektra. Yeah, kind of stained, water-stained, coffee-stained. Maybe I don't want to know what's stained. I don't know. These things could tell a story. Another Queen album that I did find in the wild, and I found it fairly early on. I think I found this in 99. Is Day at the Races. Now, this is different because it's got this reddish-orange shell. This is a Canadian Elektra version. Most of these are, as you'll see, are yellow. So, I don't know if there was any rhyme or reason to the coloring used. So, there you go. In fairly good shape. So, that one from 1976. 1977, another one of my favorite Queen albums. This is one of those yellow 8-tracks I just talked about, News of the World. So this, too, is a Canadian one on Elektra. Pretty distinctive looking from US ones. You can pretty much pick them out. Same thing with the cassettes, because the cassettes and the 8-tracks tended to look about the same. They used the same coloring, the same font, all of that. 1978 and might be my top three of Queen albums. At times, it's my favorite. Jazz. And this one's in great shape. I got lucky with this one. This is in excellent shape. Another Canadian version. I'm guessing there was a price tag here because it's darker, but still, I mean, look at that. That's a really, really clean copy. And a fantastic album. 1979, they end off the decade with their first live album, Live Killers. This is a Canadian edition. It's got that old school typewritten font. Very nostalgic. And, like with these 8-tracks, it's physically heavier because it's got twice as much tape. They fit the entire live album on one tape, as opposed to 2 records. Maybe the second Queen 8-track I ever found. Now, I've seen this out there a few times. Not a lot, but a few times, because it was a big, big album. I think it was their biggest studio album. The Game, 1980, a little weathered. This is a Canadian Elektra copy. Writing's a little faint there, but... And also in 1980, we dedicated an episode to this soundtrack, if you're interested. Flash Gordon soundtrack. This is a US version. on Elektra, but it's an RCA Music Service version, which is why it looks way different than the retail version would. But this is in really good shape too. 1981. Now this was released to retail. This is the version I found. It's US Columbia House version of Greatest Hits on Elektra. And this is when the Columbia House tapes a relatively smaller print on the side. They would soon change that. And the last Queen album to come out on 8-track in retail, very hard to find, not the hardest, 1982's Hot Space. And this is a US Elektra 8-track. Pretty good shape, little ding down here, but this sticker with the Warner W logo on it, all of the Warner Elektra Atlantic, anything that was distributed by Warner ultimately in the early 80s came with that sticker on it, whether it was a record, a cassette, or in this case, an 8-track. So this is definitely one you don't see very much. It's actually easier to find. I've seen more record club versions of this one. So to find, I was really happy to find a studio or a retail version. But I mean, any way you find it, it's not easy to find. But the absolute hardest one to find is this one, The Works from 1984. This is a sealed copy, and this is a US RCA Music Service version. So this is after they switched to Capitol Records for their label, but this is an RCA Music Service edition. And I've seen at least 2 other versions of this. There's a US Columbia House version and a Canadian Columbia House version, because 1984 seems to be the last year that Columbia House in Canada made 8 tracks available. So it is possible to find this looking 2 different ways, but any way you can find it is worthwhile because it's tough. This is the last one. As far as I know, A Kind of Magic never came out, although I suppose it could have. That was only 1986. There you go. If you want to know more about this, definitely check out my Unspooled book. I've got the link to that below. But if anybody knows if A Kind of Magic came out at 8-track, I need a picture, I need proof. Pretty sure it didn't. But anyway, and I love this album too. The Works is such a great album. And you'll notice that, you know, they would do things when they put these on 8-track, like they take out all the, it doesn't say Queen The Works up top. They take a few liberties with the cover art. I also want to mention something too, if you're getting into collecting 8-tracks, and you can't see it here, but because it'd be covered by this part, but these late period RCA Music Service 8-tracks will say manufactured in Canada. That doesn't mean they were released in Canada, because they weren't, okay? So sometimes I see them listed on Discogs as country of origin Canada, and that is not true. Just something I notice once in a while. So that's it. That's the Queen collection as it exists on 8-track, at least my versions of it. I'd love to know if you've got any really weird versions of their albums on 8-track. Let me know, and you know, if you're watching this and then, you know, you follow me, which I hope you do, on Facebook and Twitter, comment with the pictures of your Queen 8-tracks. Would love to see the different versions. The only other thing I want to get to is I want to re-mention this, because I did an episode a while back about this book, In the Lap of the Gods, a Queen and Freddie Mercury anthology by David Delgard and Jay Gent, and I had David on here to talk about this. Excellent book, fan stories, musician stories, all about Queen, all about Freddie. And the best part about this is that all profits from this book go to the Mercury Phoenix Trust for AIDS research, and get that on Amazon. Great book. And I'll have a link to the, I'll have the preview, or I'll have the review episode, the interview that I did with David, posted up here somewhere. You might be seeing it very soon. Last 30 seconds of the video, or however that works. And I want to thank everybody for watching this edition of Tim's Vinyl Confessions. Go listen to some Queen.